What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're having confrontations. Confrontations used to be something that was by far my biggest fear. I actually had a phobia of confrontations when I was younger, up until about the age of 22, 23. There was nothing I was more afraid of than getting into an argument with someone in an emotional way. And then I joined the Department of Corrections and had to get into confrontations with violent criminal offenders every single day, often for minutes or even hours sometimes. And so I learned some of the principles of healthy confrontation. And what I came to realize is that there's one thing you do in a confrontation that completely undermines you and ruins your chances of having a healthy resolution to this conflict. And that is defensiveness. Now, what is defensiveness? Defensiveness is any form of behavior where you're trying to protect yourself, your interests, your point of view, your argument. It's a form of justification where somebody accuses you or challenges you or goes against you in some way, and you fight back to defend yourself, to protect yourself. This is a huge mistake. Everybody thinks you have to do this in a conflict, that you have to win the conflict, and that if you don't defend yourself, you will lose. But the truth is, as soon as you defend yourself, you've already lost. And today I'm going to talk about why that is and what you should do instead. Firstly, I want to clarify the difference between explaining yourself and justifying yourself. Now, an explanation, why you have a point of view, why you've made an accusation perhaps, why you challenge or disagree with someone, the why behind what you're saying, is totally appropriate and totally helpful if, and only if, the other person's actually curious. So, for example, if I say, you know what, I totally disagree with your beliefs, and they look at me and they go, really? Oh, I've never had someone disagree with me before. What do you believe in? Why do you disagree? That's curiosity. Whereas if I say to someone, I disagree with your beliefs, and they're like, why are you challenging me? Why don't you agree with me? That's not curiosity. That's an attack. It's them being defensive. And what happens is, if they're being genuinely curious, what you say will be an explanation. These are my points of argument. This is why I believe what I believe. I'm open to being wrong, so on. But justification is when you respond to their attack with a defense of your position. Now, you might even say the exact same words that you would say in an explanation, but they don't give a shit. They're not listening. They're not curious. All they're doing is forcing you into a position where you have to justify yourself. And the very fact that you are justifying yourself shows them and everybody else involved that you need to justify yourself. And only somebody with a weak argument needs to justify it. So one of the things I'm trying to get across to you here that I noticed, it's very hard to kind of explain until you see it in real life. When someone goes to justify, not explain, but justify, protect, defend, they've already lost because they're being defensive, which means they're saying, I need defending. And the person in the right doesn't need defending, so if you do defend yourself, you're automatically in the wrong. All right? An innocent person doesn't run, right? An innocent person doesn't need to prove themselves innocent. Only a guilty person needs to make a case. So, now we know that's not always true, but it doesn't matter. You might be explaining a point that you're making, you might be very sure of why you're saying what you're saying, and you might be in the right, but as soon as you get defensive, in everybody's mind, in the frame of the argument, you're in the wrong. You've confirmed that you needed to defend yourself, and a lot of people perceive that as meaning you're wrong. And they also perceive it as you attacking them. They don't hear an explanation. They just hear weapons. It's bullets being shot at them. You can see this in really heated debates between people. And you often get one person being sort of more rational and calm than the other. The rational, calm person will make points, and the other person will just take that personally. as an attack. They won't be listening, they won't be curious. They'll just be like, how dare you say that? Accuse them of things. A great example was that interview, that really famous classic interview between Dr. Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman from whatever TV show. He made rational points, and she was like, so what you're saying is all women are evil, or whatever. She just took it really the wrong way. She wasn't curious. And any explanation he made just looked like justification for him being a monster. The biggest mistake Jordan Peterson made in that interview was to keep participating, to actually explain his points. He was trying to explain to someone who wasn't curious. There's no point in doing that. The only time you should be explaining is when someone's curious, and if someone's actually curious, then you're not in a confrontation. If you're in a confrontation, if emotions are high, if people are trying to win, convince each other, dominate, explanation is pointless. That kind of rationality, that kind of debate can't happen until this confrontation is dealt with. So keep that in mind. Obligation is an illusion, and this is the other main point. When you get into a confrontation, someone accuses you, someone demands that you explain yourself, you'll feel this urge to respond. This thing inside you will say, I have to explain myself, I have to justify, I have to prove myself, I have to win this argument. But you don't. And when you realize that, you'll understand that the secret to confrontation is not fighting at all. That doesn't mean running away or backing down. It just means not giving any resistance. So someone goes, how could you think that? And you go, yeah, I can see you're angry. You never actually take the bait to justify and explain yourself. One of my favorite things to do in this moment is to say, look, I'd love to explain all my points to you and talk you through why I believe what I believe, but I can see you're not ready to hear it just yet. When you are, we'll talk about it. For now, we need to figure out why you're so angry. Now we need to figure out why you're so aggressive. Now we need to figure out why it is that I feel intimidated by what you're doing. Until we sort that out, I can't explain myself. I'm not going to justify my beliefs to someone who's upset. When you're not upset, then we can talk about it. I promise you, we'll talk about everything. We'll go through all the points. You kind of put yourself in this position where no one can oblige you to prove yourself. No one can oblige you into defensiveness. Okay? And nobody ever does, actually. You do it to yourself. Now, someone might be like, you explain yourself right now. But it's you who decides to follow through on that instruction. They can't force you unless you're in a torture chair. And if you are being tortured, explain yourself. There are exceptions to the rules. But if someone's just accusing you... I had someone wrote on Quora. I do answers on Quora. If you look me up, you'll see me there. Big range of rants. And somebody asked, if someone insults me in public, how do I respond in a witty way? I said, don't. There's no obligation to respond to someone insulting you in public. No harm's being done. The fact is, as soon as you respond, you lose. If someone tries to bully you and they get a reaction, you're done. The reaction is everything they needed. Even if you're witty and you can banter back, the whole crowd can see, he got you. He reacted. My favorite thing is what I call the no reaction, which isn't like walking away and pretending it didn't happen, though I will sometimes ignore people who just annoy me. But this kind of turnaround where I will let them have a conflict all by themselves. I'm not going to get involved. And what I can do is care for them through their conflict. So let's say somebody does insult me and tries to get a rise out of me in public. It doesn't happen to me anymore, but it used to. What I can do now is just say wow, do you always talk to people like this? Or I can say seems like you have a problem with me. Do you want to tell me about it? Now, whatever they've accused me of or whatever insult they've thrown my way, I just put that aside. I put no resistance into that. If anything, I kind of ignore it, but I don't ignore that they're attacking me. But the content of what they're saying, you've got to understand this in a confrontation. The content's irrelevant. Don't talk about the content. Don't talk about the points they're making. Don't defend yourself against the accusations and insults. Nothing. Any words that come out, irrelevant. What matters is the emotion, and that's the only thing that needs to be talked about in a confrontation. I can see you're upset with me. Seems like you're angry about something. You know, under that mocking laughter you just did, I get a sense of hostility. This thing where you just call out what you're seeing and you totally dismiss the content. It's like when someone accuses you. Let's say you go, you know what, I disagree with you. It's like, you're always trying to undermine me. This is bullshit. How dare you? You say, wow. See, you got really triggered by that. But don't explain why you interrupted. Don't explain why you disagree. This isn't the time for explanation. Later on, when everybody's calmed down, you can take them out for a coffee and go, do you want to hear about my point of view? Are you ready for that now? But in the heart of a conflict, never explain yourself. Amused curiosity, that's the key here. The final point I'm making. When someone confronts me, tries to conflict with me, whatever noise comes out of their mouth, doesn't matter. I want to be curious about why they're attacking me in the first place, and that's what I'll ask. When somebody comes to me and say, why are you doing this? How dare you? Or why would you disagree with me? What's your rationale for that? Convince me of why you disagree. I go, you know what, maybe one day I will. It's not today. What I want to know is why you're so aggressive right now. Why are you upset with me? Well, because you won't explain yourself. So, well, we can get to that. And I promise I will explain myself if we get to a rational place. But I don't think that's why you're upset with me. You're upset with me before I even had a chance to explain myself. So let's talk about that. What's got you so worked up? And if someone's being a bully, they're teasing you, they're making it out like it's a laugh, but really you know it's an actual attack, then call that out. You can say, you know, on the surface this looks like banter, like you're teasing me, but I get some real hostility coming through here. Like, I think you're doing this deliberately. I think this is a personal attack. Am I wrong? And you just put it on them to explain the conflict. You don't explain shit. Try it out. Don't react. Apply curiosity. See how it goes. And if you want more help with your confrontations in life, get in touch with me, dan@brojo.co.nz. If this was helpful, share it around, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you next time.